Looking back at the history of sugar, we all know that sugarcane was among the main reasons for the exploitation of labor in the form of slavery. Moreover, growing demand for and production of sugar created the plantation system in the New World, and is mainly responsible for growing off the slave trade, where millions of Africans were forcefully taken from their homeland. When I went to see Kara Walker's sublettering, I saw the mummy sculpture, attended by a retinue of life-size boys cast in molasses, that took me through the disturbing tour of the time of slavery. Her creations are full of symbolic messages focusing on race and gender. When I saw Kara Walker's creations, I was totally struck with an understanding of how these beautiful creations show the horrible reality of the slave trade, starting from the 16th century and on, when insatiable Westerners gained profit by making rum and sugar treats. The first thing I noticed is the whiteness of statue, which according to the artist's view signifies power. The power separating those who have the language to make the world and map it, and those who work that claimed land for them with no remuneration, no hope, and then degradation and death. When looking back at the history of the Domino Sugar Factory located in Williamsburg, which was built in 1882, and at that time it was producing half of the sugar being consumed in the United States, Walker's creations are not only reminiscent of its history as a piece of the sugar factory, but also as its forthcoming destruction, since this site will be destroyed for future buildings. The sculpture is white, which means that sugar was owned by slave owners, while the statue's black features of stereotyped mummy means that sugarcane was cut by black slaves. Also, the statue's naked sexuality shows how female slaves were viewed as sexual objects. Most importantly, the Walker's subtlety reminded me of the statue of the Sphinx. The Sphinx triumphantly rises from another kind of half-world, the shadowy half-world of slavery and degradation, as she gives us a version of the finger, which in my country means you will get nothing. It also represents the Sphinx crouching in a position that is regal and yet of subjugation. She is beat down but standing. The message is clear. Sugar was made through the blood of African slaves. It was an artist's intention to convey the meaning that slaves lost their limbs and lives in the process of refining the sugar, which was an extremely dangerous job. Another important part in the artist's works are slave children made of brown sugar, which were beautifully done, while giving us insights to the cruelty of slave owners. Looking at the children's figures, I realized how slave children were forced to the relentless labor, never experiencing childhood, which made me very sad. Moreover, children of the slaves played an important part in manipulation of black women into obedience, and forced them to breed as cattle, so that the slave owners could sell their children. The horrors of separation of slave families by being sold or their children being sold mentally crushed the slaves to the point that some of the black women lose their will to live. Kara Walker is a great artist who gave us insights on the history of slave brutality connected with sugar. She created beautiful artwork that now I understand why she became a famous artist at the young age and received huge recognition. Ultimately, the realization of the artist's true meaning is really disturbing, just as the history of slavery is.